Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Slim City Talk with Slim. And of course, this is a part of the Coffee Talk series. And we're here this morning. Of course, we've been talking to city officials on City Talk throughout the Hampton Roads. I talked to the mayor from Hampton, one of the city councilmen, women from Newport News, and a few people from the city of Portsmouth. But we're also talking to candidates that are running for re-election this year. We have three incumbents that are running, and one of them is here with me this morning, the Honorable Mark Hugel. And good morning, Mark, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Morning, Slim. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you coming on your busy schedule, and we were talking about that before we came on air. How busy your schedule is and how you keep up with it. But like we said, you know that going in when you run for council. If you don't know it, somebody tells you somewhere along the line, and then you have to make that decision: do I go forward? But you know, um, before we get started, I want you to start and tell us about your platform. You're about to complete your first term as a city council person. So you almost had 4 years in the office, and we'll talk about some of the issues you face there. But we want to start you off with your platform. But before we go there, and you've been on this platform before, and I just want you to briefly tell, because you're not originally from here, like many of the elected officials we end up having, they just can't get to Portsmouth soon enough or something happens. But briefly tell us what brought you here, and then you can sort of, incorporate that into your platform, because whatever brought you here later on, it got you interested in politics.
Yeah, thanks. So my wife and I are both originally from North Central Ohio. I left Ohio a month after high school, headed off to the Naval Academy. And eventually the Navy brought us here to Hampton Roads in 1981, my second sea tour. And the Navy kind of kept us here. We were here, gone, through the rest of my 32 years in uniform. We built our first home in Churchland in 1986. So you're right. We're not originally from here, but we've been homeowners in Portsmouth since 1986, which is actually longer than at least one of my council colleagues has been on the earth. So not from here, but kind of from here. When I retired from the Navy back in 2009, I told my wife, the Navy's told us where we have to live all this time. Now you get to pick, where do you want to live?
Mm.
And she said, I enjoyed living in Portsmouth. Let's move back to Hampton Roads. Let's get back into to our house in Churchland. And so we came back here in the autumn of 2009. Until then, we didn't know where we were going to eventually settle as military retirees. And to be honest, I never really paid attention to local politics during my time in uniform. Always voted, but my focus in preparing to go into the voter booth was always around federal and to some extent state elections. Never really paid that much attention to local politics. And then we got back here, and with the decision to settle in Portsmouth, and I started paying attention, and it was never an ambition of mine to get into politics. But to be honest, when I started paying attention to what was happening in Portsmouth, there were some things I saw going on with Portsmouth leadership that I thought could be done better. And I tell folks, so I could have sat around complaining like my neighbors, or roll up my sleeves and try to help. And so back in, I guess it was 2000, I decided to tossed my hat in the ring for city council. That bid was not successful. Of course, that was the campaign that was run during the pandemic, which was an interesting way to get introduced to the campaign trail, doing everything just like this, doing it online, and that bid was not successful. But 2 years later, I decided. Still wasn't happy with some of the things I saw going on. Thought I could help, and decided to run again. And fortunately, the voters came alongside, and my I think my message then resonated with voters. And primarily, the things that I said that I wanted to work on back then really haven't changed, and now are reflected in the priorities that City Council has set for themselves. So, we have a reputation as an unsafe city, so public safety is at the top of the list, and we've made important investments in public safety. Still more work to do there, especially with staffing for Chief Jenkins and the police force. Getting our resources in place for our schools, educating our kids. Ultimately, I think when our schools are performing the way we want them to, every child that graduates is either going to be ready to go to college, ready to go into the military, or ready to go to work. I think that's ultimately the measure of success of our education program. SOLs are interesting, but I guess they're a device devised to measure along the way how well we're doing. But ultimately, when we graduate 860 kids every year, having them ready to go to college, go in the military, or head into the workforce with rudimentary skills training. I think that's where we're trying to get to. And then the other two areas that we committed to focus on are our infrastructure, our aging infrastructure, and economic development. Those things all of these things are really tied together. We need a safe place to live. We need a place where our children can be well educated. We need the fundamental services delivered effectively and efficiently. And we need to be bringing new business and new jobs into the city to continue to grow our economic base. The council has agreed that those are our collective priorities, and so I think this city council's got our priorities right, and I think the platform is really to continue pushing to fulfill some of the goals that we have set consistent with those four priorities.
Yeah, Mark, earlier you mentioned about the SOL. So I want to get into the relationship between the city council and the school board.
Yeah.
And every year, it sort of comes up, and I've been around a long time, and it's no exception nowadays with any councils I've seen. It's always been, disagreements of approaches and everything like that. And for what I've seen, and I've had a school board member on here, and from what I've seen, it's been, it's been pretty good relationship. It's been some disagreements on information flowing evenly between the two boards. And the thing is, I think at one point it was a thing where what the public sees and what the public doesn't see some of the things that are behind the scenes that are worked out just like that. And you can talk about the latest development on some funds that were, I think it came down to a 2% mandate that the state was had passed down. You can correct me, but then they upped it to like 4%, which created a shortfall. Because both of y'all are already budgeted for the 2%, and then here comes, and once the state says, well, mandate something, you have to sort of find the funds from somewhere, and that was one of the issues, and that's why it's good to have these kind of conversations, and you're going to do a lot of these to set the record straight on a lot of issues, and anytime you get, 7 council members and that many more school board members, you're going to have some differences of opinions and the way you approach things. Talk about the relationship that you have seen over your last 4 years with the school board. And before you get into that, I noticed that, it's always been a point where a lot of questions were asked by the city council to the school board to make sure you were clear on, what they were asking for. And then the school board wanted to try to do their best in answering, the questions that you all were asked. And that's always been the case from what I saw historically between the two boards. And it's nothing different now. And I think the public, both bodies have the public in mind. The council has a larger picture, a larger plate to fulfill, which includes the school board, and the school board is sort of focused on the schools and the children. Mm-hmm. So to talk about the relationship that you've seen over the years, and and the latest compromise y'all had to come to, and a lot of times it's not the city's fault or the school board's fault. Sometimes whatever comes down nationally or whatever's cut here and there, affects what happens, and it usually comes after you have sort of done your budget. So I said a whole lot, but
that's a good setup, by the way.
Yeah. Yes. Do you have anything left to say? No, but go ahead. No.
Yeah. Thanks. So the relationship is obviously an important one. I mean, city council is elected, school board's elected. So you got 2 elected bodies. Each has a little bit different overarching mission. City council to figure out what's best to do for everyone in the city. School board with a focus, what's best to do for our children and their parents. And so when I was initially elected, one of the things that I set out to do, I walked into to city council knowing that there had been history of disagreement between city council and school board going back a decade, and so knowing that we need to kind of bridge the gap and find ways to work together in a healthy, effective way. I asked to be a liaison to the school board. So Councilman Tillage and I, 2 new people elected back in 2022, we were tagged to be the school board liaisons. And so we started the conversations with our school board counterparts and with Dr. Bracy, and just from a budget standpoint, the history was for pretty much a decade before Councilman Tillis and I were elected. The city had carved out roughly around $50 million a year to devote to the school system, and it was fairly consistent, and there wasn't a big year-over-year growth in that budget. and then it actually went down a little bit during the pandemic. And so we walk into to this situation where the local contribution to the schools had been roughly flat, and we had a bunch of vacant teacher positions, and so we had some really frank discussions in those school board liaison meetings to talk to how do we address attracting teachers to come and fill the vacant positions. And Dr. Bracy and Chairman Patillo, the school board, said, well, we're going to go do a salary survey and make sure that we address a couple things. One, we need to address just where compensation is compared to teachers in the local area. We need to be competitive. But then I think because the city contribution to the schools had been relatively flat, the pay scale for teachers had gotten compressed. So as I recall, we had been gradually increasing the starting pay for new teachers, but we hadn't been increasing the pay for experienced teachers. And by the way, that was also true on the city staffing side. I mean, we have this issue of pay compression where we were increasing starting pay to try to attract new people, but we weren't increasing pay for people who have experience. And so the top pay was going up very slowly. The bottom of the pay scale was rising faster. And so you end up with this compression of the pay scale. So we had that on the school system side, in particular on the teacher side. And the difference between the salary for a starting teacher and a 30-year teacher was only like $5,000, and so it's appropriate for the school system to go take a look at that pay structure. Having these discussions, we recognized if we're going to change the pay structure, going to need to change the amount of money available to be able to pay the teachers and the entire staff, because the salary survey wasn't just done for teachers; it was done across the entire school system staff. And so, what did that translate to? Well, so when Councilman Tillage and I came aboard City Council back in January 23. The budget back then had about $60 million of local contribution from the city to the schools. The budget that we just passed for this upcoming fiscal year has $89.9 million, almost $90 million of local contribution from the city to the schools. So in 4 years' time, we have increased the amount of money that the city general fund pushes into the schools by close to $30 million, which is a 50% increase over the amount of money that for a decade before we came aboard City Council, the city was pushing to the schools. That's a significant increase. In fact, in this year's budget, the city contribution to the schools for the first time is even higher than the amount of money that we have in the budget for public safety. Now, so all of that necessary in order to be able to address the compensation for our school system people, and in particular to address the shortfall that we had in teachers. And the good news is, from 2 years ago to last school year, we decreased the number of vacancies, vacant staff positions. This is across the whole school system now. Decreased the number of vacant staff positions by more than half. So the good news is the investment that we're making is having the desired effect. So that's kind of what led to where we found ourselves during this budget season. So the school system budget process, they pull together, the school board and the school system pull together their budget separately from the city budget process. And then there are conversations back and forth to figure out how we strike a good balance between the amount of money that's set aside in the city budget for the schools to be able to allow them to operate for the following fiscal year. This year, as the school system started working on their budget, the rumors coming out of Richmond were that the state was likely to pass a 2% pay raise for state-funded school system positions called SOQ positions. So the state pays for a portion of our staffing in the schools, and the city pays for the remainder. And so the school system built their budget, assuming that the pay raise that was coming for those state positions was going to be 2%, and therefore for us to match the state to ensure that we get all the state funding for those positions, we assumed a 2% staff increase for the non-state funded, the local funded positions. And as you know, the state got into budget discussions and the state budget that typically is kind of nailed down in the May timeframe as we're wrapping up our budget negotiations. Didn't happen in May, didn't happen really till the end of June. And when it finally did happen, the state's kind of final tally when it comes to the school system state-funded positions was to build in a 4% raise for those state-funded positions. And so in order to receive the state funding for that 4% raise, we needed to match the raise on the non-state funded positions. School system went back through their budget, figured out that in order to match the state pay raise, they were about $2.5 million short from the budget that the city at that point had already passed. So we had already built into the city budget a $7 million increase, year-over-year increase from last year to this year, $7 million increase for the schools. And with the state finalizing their pay raise late, the schools came back and said, so $7 million year-over-year increase isn't going to allow us to cover the 4% pay raise for the city-funded positions. We'll need another $2.5 million. And all of that came to a head a couple of weeks ago. School board had a special meeting. They ran through where they stood in their budget process and sent notifications to the council. And we need to find another $2.5 million to cover down on the pay raise and the other things that were in the school system budget that were imperatives. And so at our last council meeting, we found a solution to the problem. It's a one-time solution for this coming year. But interestingly, I think what it brought to a head, and again, we had been having these discussions in our school board liaison meetings as we were come through the budgeting process, because it was becoming clear that the rate that we're increasing year over year funding from the city to the schools wasn't on a sustainable path. I mean, we have made some significant increases from the city general fund to the schools. But if you fast forward that out for another 5 years, the pace that we're increasing year over year wasn't going to be sustainable, given the revenue that the city's bringing in. I'll give you some specifics.
Mhm.
So for this year's budget, the city revenue from real estate taxes and personal property taxes and all the other things that generate revenue to the city revenue increased a little more than 3%. While the $7 million year over year increase that we did with schools was an 8.5% increase. So we brought in 3% more in the city, but we're giving away an 8.5% increase to the schools. Well, so you run that fast forward. If every year we are giving away more into to the education pillar than we're bringing in, then that's other things that city council needs to fund inside the city budget. We're going to have to take away from those things in order to increase the amount year over year that we're sending into the schools. Now, we said public safety is a priority, education is a priority, infrastructure, and economic development. So in those four priorities, we're using those to try to make budget decisions and ensure that the money that comes in is funding those goals first, and then whatever's left over is used to fund other needs and services. And so we had this discussion in the school board liaison meeting and said, what we really need to do is start the budget discussions earlier between the school board and city council, and give the school board some kind of sense of what additional revenue the city anticipates bringing in for the next budget year, so that we set the right kind of expectations from the school board. Because, like I said, if we continue to bring in 3% more revenue year over year at the city, but we push 8.5% more revenue year over year to the schools, then the pie is only so big, and the pie that we're carving out to go to the schools getting bigger and bigger means there's less revenue to do the other things that the city council is responsible to do.
Mm-hmm.
So all this a long story to say, one of the conclusions that I think we agreed to in our school board liaison meetings, there had been some talk several years ago about of some kind of creating some kind of funding formula that looks at the incoming city revenue and figures out what portion of that is a reasonable portion to dedicate to the education pillar. And knowing what that number is up front, we can alert the school board early on in the budget process, so that they know roughly how much revenue is going to be available from the city as they're going through their budget process. And so I think at the council work session when we had this discussion about $2.5 million, one of the things that was brought up was recognition that as we move forward, we need to continue building the relationship with the school board. We need to have more conversations sooner around the budget so that we're creating the right kind of budget expectations earlier in the process, and can work through the details of what portion of the city general fund is going to be available to fund the schools going forward.
Okay. I always like to honor when people comment, and we have a comment or a question from Thomas Chapman, and we recognize the name. He was the colonel that was on Portsmouth Coffee Talk. So this probably would be the question he would ask if he was here, but he was just asking, is there a meaning behind the words, we're giving away to the education of the children rather than allocating? Then he followed up with said words matter, and that was, you want to address that.
Yeah, so Colonel, I appreciate you keeping me honest. Probably a bad choice of words. I mean, it really is taking the revenue pie that the city council has available to them to apply across the budget priorities, and carving that pie up into the portions, and so allocating is a better way of saying what I said. We're certainly not giving any money away. It's a matter of carving up the revenue stream and allocating it against the budget priorities that City Council has set, and trying to find a balance between how much money is available to hire and pay police officers, how much is available to hire and pay teachers, how much is available to pave our roads, how much is available to try to attract new business and do waterfront development. Those are kind of the four big areas of the revenue stream tied to our priorities, and we are simply allocating portions of the general fund pie against those priorities.
Yeah, and I think we could spend the whole hour talking about education, and maybe sometime before it's all over, we will have a show dedicated just to that. But before we move on, I wanted to, I saw in the last meeting, you were kind of hesitant about, the referendum for the 1% tax that you all agreed to pass on, to put on the November ballot, to let the citizens decide if that's which would benefit the schools and the over the years neglect of general maintenance, that could give many more years or to the buildings. But for many reasons, some things are put off, lack of funds, and you have to sort of prioritize where you're going to put certain funds. But, this is going to be something that the citizens will decide. And I don't know how that's going to go, because, the state referendum that went through it only for the courts to come by and nullify what the citizens wanted. And it's going to make citizens feel kind of apprehensive. And plus, citizens are, more tax, even though it's for a good cause. So, but it's something that probably has to be done. I guess talking in the meetings, you all said this is something that's it's almost state driven.
Yeah, so it did come from the General Assembly. General Assembly recognizes that we're not investing as much as we ought to be investing in school construction, school repairs, and so the General Assembly included.
That's not just Portsmouth. That's the state schools in general. Yeah.
So every locality now has been given the green light by the General Assembly to do what we did. and that's to offer to the voters a decision. Do you want to increase by 1% the local sales tax? And if you agree to increase the local sales tax by 1% through this referendum vote, then that 1% sales tax will be held in an account locally for investment in new schools and school repairs. So yeah, they gave that permission across the state in recognition that they didn't have the money in the state budget to allocate toward doing the school construction repairs, and there are some localities that probably need that money more than others. Frankly, I think we recognize that we have some old school infrastructure, just like we have a lot of other old infrastructure. And so, could we use that money wisely to do new school construction? Absolutely, we
That's what I
could.
was going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, we could.
Mhm.
So, right now, one of our CIP priorities is to design and build a new K through 8 school. That school is estimated to be a $90 to $100 million investment. The way we'll fund that investment is just part of our capital improvement program, and when we set aside $90 to $100 million to fund that school, that's $90 to $100 million that won't be available to build something else, a new sewer transfer station, a new public safety complex. We got a long list of capital improvements that need to be made across the city, again, because we have old infrastructure. And so would 1% sales tax help to pay that bill? And it's estimated that 1% sales tax imposed in Portsmouth would generate something like $13 million a year. And that would help to pay for, and all of that money would go into an account specifically set aside for new school building or repairs to our existing buildings. Do we need that money? We need that money. But to your point, and I think the point that I tried to make at City Council the other night, it ain't a great time to be imposing additional taxes when we already have a relatively high tax rate already. And so consequently, and by the way, doing it at a time when affordability just to buy food, buy gas, pay rent, all of those things have been going up, and are impacting family budgets. And so, the referendum will put the issue on the ballot for Portsmouth voters to decide, and we'll see how it goes. My point in City Council meeting the other night was, I don't know that putting the referendum on the November ballot is necessarily a wise thing to do if we want to try to convince the Portsmouth voters to pass the referendum and create the additional sales tax, because my sense is we got a lot of folks in Portsmouth that are struggling with affordability, and so they're not going to vote even to your point, even though this is for a good reason, and it's money that's held specific for this purpose. That I don't think the average voter is probably going to vote yes unless we can build a good case for why this is a good thing to do. That's going to take some time. It's going to take some collaboration between city council and the school board to get that story together and get it out there to inform the voters. And still, even if we are able to explain in some amount of detail why this is important for the long-term health of our school system, voters are going to look at that versus putting gas in their car, and in the end, they get to choose. It won't be a city council decision. It's going to be a voter decision. And if the voters say yes, we'll impose and we'll create the account. And if the voters say no, then we won't, and we'll continue to look to fund school construction the way we are doing now, which is through our capital improvement program. And the capital improvement program, like everything else that's in there, is going to weigh the priority of building a school versus the priority of building new public safety complex versus the priority of building something else.
I'm gonna put this question up here by Denzel Glover, but before you get to that, because I think in answering your response to that will cover a lot of things that you might want to cover, because we are time constrained here. Don't want to keep you all day, keep it within an hour. But before we go to that, I want, as a person that over the years that has served on Planning Commission 8 years, EDA 8 years, and many other boards and commission, and still serving on boards and commission, but maybe a little more low-key boards now, But I just wanted to bring up the issue about that came up in the meeting concerning the zoning board, and you're part of the committee that appoints or takes suggestions for appointments to these boards and commissions. And I agreed. I think it's very important that when we appoint people to certain boards, that there is a certain amount of training that needs to be involved. Even though when I was on the planning commission, I was a realtor, so I understood the best and highest use of land, but I still had to go through training to know the process or Portsmouth, the process of the planning department and Portsmouth goes and the way the process worked in Portsmouth. So I don't know. Hopefully, that's been going on with a lot of these boards and people. One of my pet peeves if people are being appointed because they're a friend or it's been a favor. Some of these boards need some expertise. Just to be honest with you, and even it doesn't have to be total expertise, but you at least need the training to know how the system works. And I guess if that doesn't happen, you're going to have people making decisions, and you had some issues with, zoning, making, which could really affect a citizen in what he's trying to do with his property or business or something like that. So how do you feel about that? Because, it used to be when I was on there, it was a certain amount of training. It wasn't mandatory, but, if we were on the boards, we said, let's take advantage. Sometimes we had to go out of town for the training at the city's expense, but it really helped me for sure to be more effective for the 8 years I was on the planning commission. It was a learning process in the beginning, but that training really helped me understand how the system works. Even with the knowledge I had as a realtor. Do you think you ever make some of these training mandatory, especially for some of the important boards like zoning, planning commission, EDA, those boards that are going to require some expertise in there,
Yeah, so it's a great question, and one that we're wrestling with now for exactly the reason that you said. Economic Development Authority, Port and Industrial Commission, Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, those boards, commissions all kind of deal with elements of city code that need to be understood by the commissioners. And so what we have been doing is kind of on the job training. So Planning Commission has a work session before their voting session. And the work session, they talk about the things that they're going to vote on, but then as they have time available, Dr. Russell has been doing training with the planning commissioners around the zoning code, use permits, all of that to help them understand what the city code says about that, so that as they're making their decisions, they can make wise decisions and consistent with what's prescribed in city code. Similarly, Board of Zoning Appeals needs to understand what the zoning code says, so that they follow the process that ultimately allows for special exceptions or waivers to be made to zoning code that are put in front of them. And not every board and commission is necessarily the same. The history board
Right.
doesn't need to have zoning code training, but
Right.
there are those the ones that I mentioned that have an insight into what the city code says in those areas is important. We haven't done mandatory training in those areas, but I think given some of the questions that have come up recently by some of our citizens around decisions that are being made that are affecting some of our neighborhoods, we're taking a look now at should we require mandatory training for those boards where the board has to interact with city code to make sure that the commissioners are kind of all level set when it comes to understanding what their responsibilities are and what city code says.
Yes, and you don't want to open yourself up to lawsuits, and that might sound extreme, but people can sue for anything.
Yeah.
I'm on the Board of Equalization, and the decisions we make, we could, the city could be sued because of the decisions we make. So why we have to go through the annual training for what we do as far as
Yeah,
assessments.
you and I were talking before we came on today. The fact that I'm a retiree. I'm the only
Hmm.
retiree on city council, which means I have the opportunity to do a lot of liaison work. I'm a liaison to economic development. I'm a liaison to Port and Industrial. I'm a liaison to Planning Commission. I'm a liaison to Parking Authority. I do the personnel committee. I do the legislative committee. I do the school board liaison. So I have a long list of liaison assignments. The benefit of that for me, frankly, is I get to see things that are happening in each of these commissions or committees. And quite often, one group will be talking about doing something, and I'll be able to say, I was in a meeting just last week with another group. They're talking about doing something around in that area, and in particular, when it comes to this interaction with city zoning code, planning code, or planning requirements. It's an opportunity to kind of help connect dots, because the planning commissioners are focused on planning, the Board of Zoning Appeals are focused on Board of Zoning Appeals, and sometimes those two groups don't interact, and so having somebody in the room that kind of sees both things going on and can help connect dots is I think one of the things that I feel responsible for is somebody who has the time to sit in those meetings and can make sure that some of those things that missed in the seams between one group and another, we have a chance to bring those things together.
Yeah, that intercommunication is important, and I don't mean to say that anybody needs to be an expert to be appointed to these boards, because many citizens can bring uh, a special quality to a lot of these boards without being expert per se. But the training is going to be important in some of these boards. But excuse
Well,
me. Anyway,
and the personnel committee does take a look at um, not only ensuring that the representation on the boards and commissions are diverse, that's
mhm,
important, lots of ideas, but also that the people who are serving want to serve. So when you sign up to volunteer for a board or commission, you can sign up to volunteer for several, but we ask you, if you got your first pick, what would that look like? If you got your second pick, what would that look like? Third pick. So we try to match um, um, skill sets, priorities, passion, and willingness to volunteer as best we can. And then those matches are put in front of the entire council in closed session to validate that we've got the right people moving into the right places. And I often get asked at civic leagues, well, I'd like to be more involved in what's happening around the city. You
mhm.
want to get involved? There's a way to get involved. Volunteer
Yes,
for serving on a board or commission. There's no better way, short of being elected, for you to help the city wrestle with some of the issues that are out there.
yeah, that's a great way. I believe that. And real quick, let's get to Denzel Glover's question. We'd love to hear about other great things Councilman Hugel has done in the city, from economic development to public safety, while he has been in office. This should not just be a discussion about schools when it comes to him being on council. Well, Mr. Glover, I brought up the schools because that's been a hot topic for the last few weeks or months, and that's the reason I brought that up, and that that's going to always take a considerable amount of time. But thanks for your question, and I think Councilman Hugo will address that now.
Yeah, thanks. And Denzel, thanks for the question. So as I said to start with, maybe one of the most important things that we've accomplished with the current city council is arriving at an agreed to set of priorities. My first 2 years on city council, we never really congealed around what our priorities are. Everybody talked about public safety. Everybody talked about education and infrastructure and economic development, but we didn't have any specific goals set in each of those areas. Now, as a city council, because of the twice annual retreats the last couple of years, and working collaboratively with the city manager, and the city manager then taking those priorities and the specific goals that the city council is setting in each of those areas and communicating that down through the city organization. The outcome is we're getting things done. In fact, at the most recent city council retreat back in February, this city council adopted the motto "Get Stuff Done," and we adopted that motto because we are getting things done, but there's a lot more to do. We in the area of public safety, the chief and Portsmouth United and our Crime and Gun Violence Commission all are making progress. The crime stats show that we're making progress. We're not done. We got more work to do. The issues that we recently have seen in London Oaks, caused us to kind of come around with Portsmouth United, the residents in London Oaks, to figure out what are some of the specific things that we need to be doing there that haven't been done, that are allowing the violence uptick in London Oaks. The incident that occurred out on Victory Boulevard night before last. So those things continue to remind us that in the world of public safety, the work is never done. And so we're committed to supporting Chief Jenkins. We're committed to supporting Chief Magabat and their teams, because ultimately, as I said, we have a reputation to live down, and we got work to do in order to get our arms around public safety. But we're making progress, important progress. In education, as I said, we want to get children graduating either headed to college, the military, or directly into skilled workforce situations with real jobs. Thing is, we have the jobs out there, and so career technical education was an area, a passion of mine, going back to my time as a commander at the Navy Yard. And so the fact that we have good career jobs out there means we need to continue investing in career technical education. I'm excited to see that the PACE Center is coming online. I want us to continue using the Skilled Trades Academy that the Tidewater Community College offers right here in Portsmouth. Both are great opportunities for us to help our children that are not going to go to college, that are not going in the military, to go into the workforce. In the area of infrastructure, we're when I came aboard City Council, we were pumping and hauling sewage from one place to another in the city because our sewer transfer stations were in bad shape. We have made that a priority and have gone to the General Assembly and asked for some budget help, and have gotten that help from the General Assembly to invest in our sewer transfer stations. So the money that we were wasting by pumping sewage from one place into a truck, moving it to another place, and dumping it, we're spending way less money doing that these days than we were 4 years ago when we came aboard City Council. That's just an example, but sewage, water, stormwater, resilience to flooding, all of those issues are kind of come to a head when you talk about some of the old infrastructure challenges that we have in the city, that we're, again, making progress. And then finally, economic development, pretty exciting things happening down there on the waterfront. We're on in the home stretch now of selecting a developer to develop the old Holiday Inn site, the Crawford Bay site. The jail tower has been turned into a pile of rubble, and the rest of the magistrate building and old courthouse, all that is in the process of being demolished in anticipation of doing waterfront development on the south end of the downtown waterfront. So those waterfront development projects are going to be important for the ability of the city to generate new revenue. Both of those sites have been sitting fallow or occupied by the city and not generating any tax revenue for, in the case of the Civic Center, since the late 60s, early 70s. The case of the Holiday Inn site since 2008. So for decades, we have wonderful waterfront property that's generating no tax revenue. And so the development in both of those areas, vitally important to help bring additional revenue in to help us pay the bills for public safety, education, and infrastructure. And then the Link District, pretty exciting things getting ready to break loose there. And of course, beginning of the year, we'll see the new casino hotel come online, and opportunities in that part of the city to grow other entertainment opportunities. So the list of things that are getting done, that have gotten done, that are yet to be done is still a long list, but we're getting a lot of things done and in the rearview mirror. More things to be done, and frankly, that's the reason that I am running for another term. There are some things that we're in the middle of that I'd like to be involved in pushing across the finish line that are in the works right now, and that are going to make a difference, not just in the short term, but in the long term for our city.
Yeah, well, thank you. And we're winding down now within the hour. So I wanted to put up this comment that the colonel put. It's not a question, but that you're going to have to, just wanted to put it up. But well, wait a minute. That hides everything. I think it's still up there on the screen at the bottom. I don't know if you can read it, but I'll put it up at the end. But I just wanted to ask one more question, but because there are some other questions that probably will come up as you go forward during this campaign season. People, as far as crime, people are concerned about the money being spent on the prevention of crime that's going out to certain people. You shouldn't bank on everything you see on Facebook, but that's where a lot of people get their information. So a lot of that should be addressed. With some of it's true, some of it might not be true, some of it might be true. So people have questions about some of that and the crime commission and things like that. But I know it's a lot of things going on. Some things you cannot prevent from happening. But anyway, some of these questions, but I just wanted to ask one last question because I don't think this has come up a lot, but these days and in the political climate we have now, do you think it's important for the localities or people voting for local officials to know what their party affiliations are, or what some of their national views are, especially when they're trying to vet a candidate? With some of the things that happen nationally trickling down to the local politics. So it would make sense to kind of know where your local elected official is on some of those issues.
Yeah, so I get that question a lot when I was out on the campaign trail before, and I'm not surprised that it's going to come up again. Here's the thing, Slim. How I feel about pro-life or pro-choice is my personal thing. I have no authority on city council to do a darn thing about pro-life or pro-choice. It's not a choice that's ever going to come to city council. Should you be worried about where I stand on national issues? Well, so it's a great country. You can worry about whatever you want to worry about, and I would encourage all of the voters, please do your homework, and engage those of us who are campaigning. You're free to ask those questions. Please understand that we're free to choose what questions we think are relevant to answer. Is it important that you know party affiliation? Well, in the case of local elections, and now I'm talking city council and school board, they're nonpartisan elections, and I think one of the reasons that they're nonpartisan elections is because the authority that we have to impact national or even state issues from the perspective of a local politician is minimal. Frankly, what you want us working on are the things we're talking about. You want local politicians to be solving keeping my community safe. Okay, can't do that from the General Assembly. Can't do that from Congress. The only people that are going to keep the community safe are us folks locally investing in local safety. We've seen at both the federal level and the state level, there's a limit to what they can do to help educate our children. And so the school board, critically important to making decisions about how we educate our children. City council, critically important to make sure that the schools have the resources they need for that education to be done well. Local infrastructure. Yeah, there's maybe some state money and some federal money that can help with local infrastructure challenges, but at the end of the day, we know where the infrastructure issues are and have to prioritize those issues within the resources that are available to us to tackle. Are we going to do a waterfront development project, or are we going to replace a sewer transfer station? And then local economic development is all about local. The folks at the state level are interested in bringing more business to Virginia. Well, they're just as interested in bringing business to Northern Virginia and Western Virginia as they are interested in bringing business to Hampton Roads. We're interested in bringing business to Hampton Roads and specifically to Portsmouth. And so there's this kind of line of demarcation of what you need local leaders to do compared to what you need from the state and from the feds. And so as you're doing your homework, hopefully what you'll look at when it comes to local elections is who's willing to do the work to help us solve the local things that only the local government can solve. And I think the good news is the current city council is working well together, has stabilized the leadership of the city to the point that we have developers who are interested in coming and investing in the city. And we have a set of priorities, an agreed to set of priorities, and we're aligned around those priorities. I mean, I saw your interview with Councilwoman Thomas. She rattled off the same priorities that I'm sharing because the city council is really aligned around those as the important things that you, our Portsmouth neighbors, are counting on us, your city council and your school board, to go work on as the places where we concentrate and try to make things better for all of us. And so, is there partisanship involved in any of that? No. It's really neighbors working on behalf of neighbors, and regardless of what your national or state partisan interests or affiliations might be. For what it's worth, I've been an independent guy since the day I joined the military. I'm still an independent guy, and so you can draw whatever conclusions you want to from that. It's allowed me, while I was in uniform, to stay nonpartisan, and frankly, it's a benefit now to be in a nonpartisan thing. I'm not interested in state government. I'm not interested in federal government. I've been to the Hill as a flag officer. I've been to the General Assembly as a city councilman. They got their stuff to do. That's not why I'm interested in serving. I'm simply interested in serving on behalf of all of my neighbors to try to make Portsmouth the awesome community that frankly I think it is, and we're living into that potential now.
Okay, and I just want to let you know that's going to be a question I'm going to ask all the candidates.
It's
I
a
feel
good question.
duty bound to ask that question now. 5 or 10 years ago, that wouldn't have come up because it's known that not local politics is nonpartisan.
Yep.
But with today's climate, that's a question that must be asked, especially
Sure.
when citizens that feel strongly about certain issues when they're vetting a candidate, it might be important to them. But anyway, thanks a lot for coming on, and I appreciate you asking the questions. And I know you have to get going. Got a busy day today. You're kind of everywhere, but want to give you one last opportunity to talk. You pretty much did your campaign during the whole time you were speaking, which is what you should do this campaign season. But you give you that have the last word as far as why people should reelect you to the Portsmouth City Council.
So again, Slim, I want to thank you for the opportunity to spend some time talking about the issues that you brought up. They're kind of current events issues and relevant to what's going on around the city right now. So this is an important opportunity for me to engage and answer those questions, give folks a sense of who I am, what's important to me, and ultimately, what's important to me is based on what's important to you. We on City Council do listen to what the concerns are of our neighbors. It's the kind of representation that you should expect from the folks that you elect to City Council. And so opportunities like this are an opportunity for our neighbors to become informed, to become learned voters, because it's important when you go into the voter booth to make wise decisions, not just based on I recognize that name or I recognize that person, but what is it that those names, what is it that those people are aiming to do for us? And so this is a great opportunity, and I appreciate you making the opportunity available to me and to other candidates to come and share. My punchline for the campaign, we have momentum in Portsmouth. We're, in my opinion, on the right track in a lot of areas, and it's because we have good alignment amongst the current City Council. We're committed to working with each other. We're a diverse group, which means a lot of ideas. We wrestle with those ideas in a healthy way, and I want to be part of the team that continues doing that. And so as you head to early voting, which is a month and a little away, election day that's 3 months away, hope that you'll consider the momentum that we have, the stability that we brought to Portsmouth leadership, the fact that we're making good news and not bad news, and consider those things as you step into the voter booth, and I would ask you to consider reelecting me to City Council. So again, Slim, thanks. Appreciate you.
Yes, and thank you, and thanks to everybody for watching. And if you're a candidate and you wish to come on the show here and have a conversation with me, let me know. Let me know. My email has been scrolling across the page. Just go to my Facebook page. You can contact me there and let me know if you want to be a part of this. And make sure if you're watching this, make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't done already. But each time you watch us, make sure you hit that thumbs up button to show the likes, especially if you're watching on YouTube. So thanks again as we close out this segment, City Talk with Slim, which is a part of the Portsmouth Coffee Talk podcast network. Because we have a lot of things going on this channel now. So thanks a lot, everybody. And we'll see you next time. And take care, Mark, and good luck to you.
Thanks again.
be our guest.